He came in from the garden.
Okay, good afternoon, good evening everyone. Everyone out there, hello in Facebook world. Welcome to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. I'm Thundercloud, Repairian. My mum calls me James. And I'd like to begin the evening with an acknowledgement of country and the original custodians of the land, the Kamilaroi and Banbai people whose land we're on and we're broadcasting from here today, and the continuing connection of the elders past, present and emerging to the land. I'm going to take off my cardigan. This is my one mob shirt, this one, and we are all one mob at the end of the day. We're all unified and there's no real difference, we all bleed red. So with that, I'm going to start with this book. Today I was extremely fortunate to have donated from St Mary's Catholic school up there. They had a library clean out after 20 years and about 1,000 books. Yeah, so and of which there would have been a good 20 different poetry books plus, and they're all children's books, so children's poetry. And I'm going to start with one of our lost past poets, Kevin Gilbert. That's his mural over there that you can see.
Can the viewers see that?
No, they can't.
Oh, you should rush over the camera.
I have to show. I will. Okay, yeah.
We'll
Viewers,
send you as you go. So
there you.
Can they see it if you do that? Does it come up?
Yeah, I can zoom in. So that's Kevin Gilbert, born in 1933, passed in 1993.
And what are the words you've got on the wall from him?
Well, I'll be reading that out in a moment. So, yeah.
Learned to read and write while he was in prison.
Yeah, so Kevin...
Did you say he learned to read and write in prison?
Yeah.
Kevin was of the stolen generation and was put in an orphanage but escaped. And he was a Wiradjuri man and grew up on the banks of the Lachlan River with his mob.
It's the river, yeah.
Was imprisoned a number of times, and then while he was in there, as Mark mentioned, to read and write, and wrote a lot of poetry, and also did some really deadly art as well. So this is from Child's Dreaming, so I'm going to do a few kids' poems to start off. So yeah, if you've got kids out there, now's the time to watch, and after I finish you might want to send them away. In case we get raunchy.
You could do some kids' nights.
Yeah,
so everyone
absolutely.
knows they can come on with the kids. And we'll get dressed up as pandas or kangaroos and have a fight out in the back.
This is Hear the Lilt of Laughter. Hear the lilt of laughter of the children while in school they are tracking platypus down by the swimming pool. The children saw Mum's turtle tracks that led them to her eggs. A little further on they found Blue Tongue, who has short legs. As they studied further, looking at the trees, they saw the scratch tracks made by will-eye possum's sharp and shiny claw. They saw where old Crow had his lunch and some old piece of meat, and running tracks of marsupial mouse that Dingo tried to eat. And then on the horizon they saw a rainbow gleam and listened to the legend of what made rainbow glow and beam. After lunch they learnt to read the message of the birds and what the wind was saying, things you've never heard. They read the dancing of the ants and the flight of native bees, and what the clouds were saying high above the tall gum trees. The children found some vegetables, yam and cabbage tree. They must collect some fruit and meat and then go home to tea. They'd had a very busy day and learnt a lot as well. They had a corroboree dance that night with happy tales to tell.
Oh, that's marvellous. I felt I too could read the Book of Nature.
Is that one of the books you got from the school?
Yes.
Wow.
Next one, Emu and Kuri. It's a short one. When Captain Cook wrote his seafaring book, how could he have been so silly to think that he'd discovered Australia before Emu and the Koori? Turtle. Turtle likes to travel far. His home upon his back much better than a caravan or a holidaying shack. And the next one is Eagle, which is over on the mural over there. I saw Big Eagle watching me while he sat on the old gum tree. I thought, I'm glad I'm as big as me and not as big as Finch.
And not as big as what?
Finch.
Finch, the Finch.
No, as Finch.
Over there on the board.
As
Finch.
Finch.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Hey.
Desert pea. I stared hard at the desert pea. It had two eyes. It was plain to see. I blinked and winked and then stared again, but it didn't blink back at me. Blue tongue. Blue tongue licked his lips today. I sat and wondered why. Mrs. Mozzie shed a tear and so did Mrs. Fly. Their juniors wouldn't listen to what the mothers said. Now Blue tongue, nodding wisely, looks contented and well fed.
They're all good stuff, aren't they?
And then
Did he draw as well?
no, the photos in this book are by Eleanor Williams, an ecologist and photographer. Yeah. And that actually, later on, I'll be reading from Alex Darling, I think his name is, who dropped in today, who is an ecologist working in the area, and a poet, and he's got two books over there, all about Australian animals that I bought off him. But tonight he couldn't make it here because he's out at Wattlebridge Indigenous Protected Area doing a survey of gliders. Night gliders.
Major gliders.
How long will he be around?
Oh,
Any idea?
he's 67, he could live another 50 years.
Oh no, I meant the district.
No. He lives about... he lives out 80 k's west of Inverell, so he comes over this way quite often, yeah. Yeah, so I would...
Almost down at Moree.
Yeah.
And he's delivered some beautiful books.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Absolute fabulous photography, and the poetry is beautiful.
It is a Mark bought one.
That Moree is an interesting place. We should go down to the town hall at Moree and perform sometime. That town hall's so strange.
So I've got two more of Kevin Gilbert here. The first one's a little short one. The last one is
They're not.
She only
three more.
They're not.
Goody, black snake. Goody, old black snake, look at the squiggly tracks you make. Stay in the sun and do not flee. I won't come any closer. Oh no, not me.
Oh, that's clever. More of that than meets the sting.
I'll do it again. Goody, old black snake, look at the squiggly tracks you make. Stay in the sun and do not flee. I won't come any closer. Oh no, not me.
Yes, that's
Children dancing. Children dancing, holding hands, dancing the stories of our people's land, painting our bodies with the ochre and clay, boomerangs clapping in the proper way, digging the yam, song, cockatoo, emu, man and crocodile and kangaroo, winnowing the seed, winnowing, digging yams and winnowing the seed. Children dancing, holding hands, the stories of our people's land. Boys dance hunting, dance and jabberoo. Girls dance winnowing and cockatoo. Children dancing, holding hands, dancing the stories of our people's land. Body paints and feathers are gleaming. Little feet are pounding the earth and the sand. Children dancing, holding hands, dancing the stories of our people's land, painting our bodies with the ochre and clay, boomerangs clapping in the proper way, digging the yams on cockatoo, emu man and crocodile and kangaroo, winnowing, 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 winnowing the seed, winnowing, 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 winnowing the seed.
Well read.
Last one, our sacred family. I'm a part of every living thing, and every living thing is part of me. We're all created of this sacred earth, so everything's our sacred family. Now, the next one here, Colin Thielle, Songs for My Thongs. Colin, I guess I'm doing this. He, one of the books I came across today was Storm Boy. It was a photographic book of the movie telling the story Storm Boy, which had David anyway. Songs for My Thongs. I'm just going to do some random ones out of here.
What did he write, Stormboy?
Yeah, Colin Thielle, yeah. Ash Road. Was it Wet used to say?
He was huge.
He wrote the trilogy Thorn on the Stubble too,
Okay.
which was an English-German TV co-production.
Yeah.
So he's reached out to the world.
Yes. Yes.
The Russians loved Storm Boy. They
Yes.
still do. They love Storm Boy.
I think it was
When-
remade, wasn't it? It was remade recently.
This one's called When I Went to Biadok. When I went to Biadok, my grandma said to me, will you try to buy a duck, and bring it home for tea? And when I went to Bessie Bell, my grandma said to me, you'd better get a drake as well, or maybe two or three. But when I went to Drick, my grandma changed her mind. I think I'd like a roast chick, and the piglet's bacon rind. And when I drove through Drong, my grandma said loudly, to talk of food is wrong, I want a pet instead. What sort of pet from Chinkapook is pictured in your head? I asked my gran in Kumanduk, and this is what she said. I will not take a mousel moose, or things that fur and fuss. What I want is not a puss, and not a duck-billed platypus, but just a just a hippopotamus.
Well,
Whoa.
a bit of practice on it.
No, it wasn't. No. So my reading's getting good. Like
You did really well.
louding. Yeah.
Jeez, I'm with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are, I'm really just ripping these out of whatever page I turn to. A little quick one. Lift a shining sheaf. Lift a shining sheaf and watch the frightened feel my scatter. Lift a creek pool rock and hear the tales of Yabby's splatter. Lift a desert stone and see the gecko's jewelled wonder. Lift a bale of hay and run from Joe Blake under. Run from Joe Blake under. Joe Blake, rhyming slang for snake.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was waiting for rats. That's what we usually find out.
All right.
Please.
So last one I'm going to do was done a few, I don't know, about a month ago by Paul, who was in there. This was written by Anonymous Legion. No, not Q Anonymous either. They don't know who wrote it. It's called The Drover's Dream. So the last one here tonight. And it's anonymous. This is a book illustrated by David Van Austin. Anyway, that's irrelevant. It's the poetry record book. The Drover's Dream. Just a second. Let the door close. All right. Hey Saul, how are you? Yeah, grab a seat. Yeah. The Drover's Dream. One night when travelling sheep, my companions lay asleep. There was not a star to illuminate the sky. I was dreaming, I suppose, for my eyes were partly closed when a very strange procession passed me by. First there came a kangaroo with his swag of blankens blue. A dingo ran beside him as his mate. They were travelling mighty fast, but they shouted as they passed, "We have to jog along, it's getting late." The pelican and the crane, they came in from off the plain to amuse the company with a Highland fling. The dear old bandicoot played the tune upon his flute, and the native bears sat round them in a ring. The possum and the crow sang us songs of long ago, while the frilled-necked lizard listened with a smile. And the emu standing near with his claw up to his ear said, "The funniest thing I've heard in quite a while." Some frogs from out the swamp where the atmosphere is damp came bounding in and sat upon some stones. They each unrolled their swags and produced from little bags the violin, the banjo and the bones. The goanna and the snake and the adder, wide awake, with an alligator danced the soldier's joy. In a spreading silky oak the jackass cracked a joke, and the magpies sung the wild colonial boy. Some brolgers darted out from the tea trees all about and performed a set of lances very well, while parrots green and blue gave the orchestra its cue to strike up the old log cabin in the dell. I was dreaming of, I suppose, of these entertaining shows, and it never crossed my mind I was asleep, till the boss beneath the cart woke me up with such a start, yelling, "Dreamy, where in the hell are all the sheep?" Thank you. And with that, I'm going to invite Mark up.
Thanks, James.
You're welcome.
Part of the German contribution to Australia. And he was also, he was German, but brought up here, of course. He was also a teachers' college principal.
Thielle?
Yeah, quite a thing to be a teachers' college principal. Mm-hmm. You contribute to your country doing that.
Yeah.
Thanks, James.
No, not at all. Not at all. As long as you're not sitting on the cardigan.
Okay, for anybody who's not from Gyra, and I'm only a recent arrival, Gyra's set in a beautiful setting up in the mountains. All you Melburnians and Sydney-siders, you can keep your huge wads of capital, and don't buy up here, please. We don't want to see you, or at least we don't want to see your dollars. Now, as people they're fleeing the cities, there's been this huge little boom here and in Gyra. And so I've been here 20 months, and for the last 6 months I've been trying very hard to find somewhere to live. So I've called this Mark's Lament. There was a young man from Old Gyra. He could not find a hearth for his fire. He took his dog Ruby, advertised his caboosey, and now he's no longer in Gyra. Oh, hello, Urella. Okay, but I'll still be spending a lot of time in Gyra. Now, a friend of mine, she's a, she's a writer, and she's a performer, and she's also a poet. And I've got two of her compositions. This is Wendy Dent's compositions. She's from Brisbane. And the first one, I'm going to read each of these twice because I think you need to hear each one twice because they're that sort of poem. Okay, the dung beetle. Loaded on, up the ramp and inside a pitch-lined prison. The outrage I felt. Cheated. A room of my own, or at least some privacy. That was what I wanted. No such luck, save for the view from high on a pile of dung. I surveyed the stalls, the backsides and genitals swinging, while flies giggled and played handball. Sea travel can stir up a beetle to do crazy things. I had the mind to mutiny, to take control as God had done, and confine the sinners to the hold, or make them swim in search of a twig and float it back to this tub. I am a safe bet. My wings are too small to take the wheel, so I'll stay on this shit heap. Okay, I'm going to read that again. Let's see how we go. The dung beetle. Loaded on, up the ramp and inside a pitch-lined prison. The outrage I felt. I felt cheated. A room of my own, or at least some privacy. That was what I wanted. No such luck, save for the view from high on a pile of dung. I surveyed the stalls, the backsides and genitals swinging, while flies giggled and played handball. Sea travel can stir up a beetle to do crazy things. I had the mind to mutiny, to take control as God had done and confine the sinners to the hold, or make them swim in search of a twig and float it back to this tub. I am a safe bet. My wings are too small to take the wheel, so I'll stay on this shit heap. The dung beetle, he's gotten onto a cattle shit. Is that what's happened to it?
Yeah.
And he's just surveying the scenery.
Yeah.
Doesn't look flash.
No, he's on a journey.
He's on a journey. Tide. Mud stirs in the river. It stains the current. The headwater rains have come. The streaks glide past paddocks that marvel at the spectacle. Their banks push into the belly of water, pregnant with delight. Aroused, the river spreads its sides and opens to the sea. Here the fresh takes in the salt. The river pours its secret into the bay. Beyond the bar, moonbeams splatter across the sickly wash as paint runs when drizzled on crushed cotton. Yellow caps of coral spawn sway towards the ocean beach. Free falling between the heads of rock and surf, these days of crab holes and driftwood are the scavenge spaces where memories hide. My shell reverberates and tightens. The swirls of bone and sand beneath the well of sky and bay pull treasure towards the moon. Now I'll see if I can do a better job of it, because it takes a while for me to get my head around something. Tide. Mud stirs in the river. It stains the current, and the headwater rains have come. The streaks glide past paddocks that marvel at the spectacle. Their banks push into the belly of water, pregnant with delight. Aroused, the river spreads its sides and opens to the sea. Here, the fresh takes in the salt, and the river pours its secrets into the bay. Beyond the bar, Beyond the bar, moonbeams splatter across the sickly wash as paint runs when drizzled on crushed cotton. Yellow caps of corals spawn sway toward the ocean beach. Free falling between the heads of rock and surf, these days of crab holes and driftwood are the scavenge spaces where memories hide. My shell reverberates and tightens. The swirls of bone and sand beneath the velvet of sky and bay pull treasure towards the moon. Thank you, Wendy.
Thanks very much, Mark Svensen. So this morning, while Mark was here, or before he was here, I don't know, I had a visit from Alexander Dudley, who's written these absolutely fantastic books on Australian animals. He's an ecologist and he does research in animals. And he's been writing since he was about 16. He's now 57, so he's been writing quite a long time, 40 years or so. Doesn't only do verse about poetry, but these two books, this one's Fauna Verse, Wildlife in Poetry Tasmania, published in 2018. So you can get these from faunaverse.com.au or me. And this one, the one Tasmania one, won the Wheatley Award winner from the Royal Zoological Society of New South Wales for 2019. The other one here, Faunaverse, Australian Wildlife in Poetry. And they're really beautiful books, and they've got these wonderful photographs from his wife, Jane Dudley. So I'm only going to read one.
What's his name, mate?
Alexander Dudley.
Dudley.
Can you show us that Tasmanian one, James? Oh, beautiful.
Did the screen eye get a good shot of the shot? It's a good photo.
They're all good photos, yeah. They're right the way through. So now the one I'm going to read is one that Alex did here, I don't know, 6 months ago when he dropped in during our morning market, and he got up on the stage and did them. Now I'm not sure if anyone knows, but wombat shit is cubic.
What?
I didn't know that.
Wombat tube what?
Wombat poo is a cube shape. Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's not tapered, so like, do you think their bums like snap shut?
Oh, I think so.
Wow, that's interesting, isn't it?
How
How accurately cubed. How accurately cubed.
Wombat droppings.
you got a photo?
Yes.
Let me have a look. Hang on, I've got my glasses on.
With the bloody...
shit a brick.
I see.
Yeah, exactly. All right, wombat droppings. So this is written for kids. So what he does in his poetry, he gives an accurate description of the lifestyle and the habits of each animal that he writes about. So it gets rid of a lot of myths about stuff.
Wow.
I walked amongst the rounded hills and trekked through button grass. Scenery surrounded me and many peaks I passed. I stopped a while to rest my bones upon a fallen tree and checked the ground around. A strange sight did I see. Upon a log beside my foot a puzzling sculpture stood. 5 green cubes of fibrous content balanced on the wood. What strange beast has passed this way and left these decorations? A nearby ripping, crunching noise disturbed my ruminations. I turned about with trembling heart, not knowing what I'd see, and there I saw a wombat looking quizzically at me. It looked a friendly creature, its eyes were small and bright. "Hello there," the wombat said. "I nearly died of fright. I wasn't too too familiar with marsupials that spoke, I had assumed that wombats were a silent sort of folk. Those droppings there, I pointed. To what do they belong? Those? They're mine, the wombat said. They haven't been there long. But why are they stacked up like that? Why plonk them on the log? It seems a lot of trouble to spend going to the bog. Finally the wombat spoke. Oh, I guess that you should know. More than nature's gentle urgings determine where we go. That artifice, that sculpture, that well-constructed pile identifies this place as mine with its distinctive style. The size of each cubed segment and their placement tells a story. Any wombat seeing this knows that they're in my territory. Ah, I said, I understand your message etched in feces. But does that sculptured scat apply to any other species? Don't worry, mate, the wombat said. You're not a threat to me. I'll see you round. I'm off to graze some sedges for my tea. With that, the wombat trundled off, left me to contemplate. Round objects roll, but cubed ones don't, not in their natural state. Next time you see the cubed-shaped droppings, don't sneer with derision. They're the fecal art of wombats, deposits of precision.
Yes, but I mean, I never knew wombats talk before.
No, me either. Me either. Yeah.
Gosh, did you go to school?
Very successful.
All right. Well, who would like to come on up next? As invitations are out there. Ashley, Albanese, welcome. Come on up. And by the way, the books are $24.95 each.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I was sitting out there in boundless oblivion, and I thought I should bring my 3 rulers to show that I'm a person of discipline. The first one, hypothesis. What we think may be the case, as we presume. The second ruler, implications of that visionary stroke of logic we may have. And the third ruler, look, it's blue, just like the camera I'm facing. Parameters. Well, that's flowing on forever, isn't it? Even a little song or poem can partake of all those triadic dimensions. I was writing in my way, and I thought I would start my paean, P-A-E-N, with these words from The Tale of the Hiker. If you go to YouTube and you look up The Tale of the Hiker, there are blossomish young Japanese women with 3-stringed plucking instruments singing this in the original form. And if you're interested in the texture of projection, it is a compelling experience. The reason I was going to read a few lines is that I'm always fascinated by these Oriental texts, Russian or Eurasian or Chinese or Japanese or Korean, that begin with the ringing of the bell. So the Tale of the Hiker begins with the Jatavana temple and these words in song form. The Jatavana temple bells ring the passing of all things. Twin sal trees, white in full flower, declare the great man's certain fall. The arrogant do not long endure. They are like a dream one night in spring. The bold and brave perish in the end. They are as dust before the wind, Far away in the other realm, Zhao of Qin, Wang Mang of Han, Zhu Yi of Liang, Lu Shan of Tang, spurned the governance established by their lords of old, by sovereigns past, sought pleasure and ignored all warnings, blind to ruin threatening the realm, deaf to the suffering people's cries. So it was that they did not last. Their lot was annihilation. So it's not just Bazza and John and Ono reading biblical epic under the beautiful pillars of the old Armidale Courthouse. It's us next to the fairy twinkling Christmas lights who can bring forth epic, ethical words. Now, as I was listening to these interesting words about Kevin Gilbert, I wrote something that will be a story of more length someday from my conscious, subconscious, conscious. They're together, aren't they? And this is it. I've been doing a lot of writing today. Sitting listening to Kevin Gilbert's poetry, I hear widgie clapsticks, sea eagles thermal over Burke, Mount Oxley, vast Pimple Rock almost beyond, but still an horizonwards monument, and kids dancing for me through electric on a Walgett Street corner, wrapped with an ocean of dust surging from the west, buoying them around and up to raptures. All time, no time, smile time, through me, over me, with me, over me, ever, ever, with me, ever, ever. I spent many years teaching there, and one night I went walking in a dust storm, and there were about 7 kids on different parts of the corner in their swimmers, dancing in the dust, and the dust was so thick that their bodies were almost buoyed up off the ground, and they were almost naked, staring and smiling at me through the vast tide of dust and the Walgett electric lights on the street corner. It was probably the most unforgettable moment I had from my decade in the West. Now, I read this last week, but I got a blip in it, so I rewrote it, and I'll try to do it without any dance steps missing. And I added a thought. Heaven's rain, straight into Dangar's lagoon and Mother of Duck, Chi points on the granite spine. Do the grey-white, greened humps of granite loom to think close to, how far from, eroding away? Holidayers from New England splay the white sandy reach, thinking that the tide may bear them away coming in. Back on the tableland, beach towels, hats, umbrellas, packed households away awaiting. The ebb slips soundless tide beyond, the next jaunt to the unforgiving sea. And I often throw the I Ching related to the things that the I Ching can relate to as they bend away in the flow of. So I wrote these words. See from the peak the reach of our steps, fire time to boil tea, thunder near and far, last spring's crossing to the festival isle. That horizon bears its shores away. We talked around rocks, the undone, the unsaid, plans not planned but carried forward. And next week I'll read a long, oh, thank you very much. I'll read it. It's a bit painful to throw that I Ching, and you get a different, each one's like a landscape, and so you can go for a journey through the landscape and write poems and chants. And Mao Zedong planned a whole, I kid you not, he planned a whole revolution by doing this, interchanging I Ching with one of the professors at Shandong University for about 1.5 years, and they had many interchanges of the I Ching about whether or not they should rock and roll with the cultural evolution.
These may end up in prison and die.
We can't draw a template on the cultural revolution yet, but I'll stick to the word cultural evolution.
Well, Chairman Mouse made a profound statement was kill the early mosquito.
What was it?
Kill the early mosquito.
Paul, you're an apostle blinded on the road to Damascus. Here's just a couple of words from my teaching time. I was wandering around Sydney University and I heard this bit of discussione and what was that word? The key word the teacher used this afternoon. Ontolo, gee, that's it, ontology. Anyway, next week I've got a really epic outpouring and utterance from John and Ono about his very resolute but dissolute friend Baz of the Baz. So I'll read that next week. And I wrote a short story that I've been planning to do on the Gold Lightning when we had 6 or 7 weeks back that strange pillar of ice descend on Armadale. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Ashley.
Oh, that was all right.
That was one of the moments, obviously, one of the epiphanies in my life. When they danced in the
Where's
dust.
that technology?
And they were nearly taken off the ground by the thickness of the dust, but they knew it was coming from the west. It was an Aboriginal thing, and they sort of went with it, writhing and riding it. Oh, it was an experience.
So, word of the week this week, it's a new word from one of my Facebook friends that didn't invent it, shared it of someone there, and the word is fuctangular. Yeah, use it freely. It means, this kind of means quite fucked up. Yeah,
It means
fuctangular.
it's not quite right.
Not quite right, yeah.
Archangela
Yeah, fuctangular.
and Archangela.
With that, I'm going to invite Saul up in a moment. Now, after that, will you be ready to go there, Rob?
Yep.
Ali, you got something for us today?
Not in front of that.
No, that's all right.
You're gonna sing?
And Doug?
No, I'm not singing.
And Doug? So we got, yeah.
That's true.
All right, so we'll just go around that way around the room, yeah. Saul Caferella, and Paul. Yep, you got something tonight too? Okay, after Rob, sure.
So this is the one I did sort of a couple of weeks ago, and I
missed it. Good.
I have got all its bits in it now, and it's all complete and sort of reads quite nicely, I believe. Okay, it's called The Grim Tale of the Plankton and the Trees Who Thought They Ruled the World. If only you were common and I could find you anywhere, but it seems that life's a mystery, and some things are quite rare. Maybe I'm a fool in love with breathing nice clean air, and swimming in an ocean without plastic getting in my hair. There is a simple story that we all need to understand, that once upon a time the air was full of carbon, like the beach is full of sand, and that most of life was plankton in the seas and huge mega trees upon the land. And that plankton and those mega trees thought that life was grand. They lazed in the sunshine and gobbled up that carbon for breakfast, lunch and tea. And they partied and they partied and they gorged themselves indeed. Then, one day, day by day, they died. They suffered for their greed. They ate up all that carbon and fell to the bottom of the sea. And on the land they'd grown and grown through generations past. But they fell too and were buried, victims of their lust. Because they breathed out oxygen, they changed the air that was so suited to their taste. It was not sustainable, and in a way, they suffocated on their waste. And when their reign was over, and they were fossilising into coal and oil, all the oxygen that they had made lit the fuse for all us critters to embroil ourselves into the lot in which we fall, and play and pray and love and politic and toil. Our super clever brain thought up grand ideas. We left the path of nature and things began to spoil. Like necromancers now, we raise those ancient dead who thought they ruled the world. Their rotted corpses, laced with methane, add to the atmospheric swirl. And we burn their carbon bodies to charge our industries and make our wheels whirl. Now, today, day by day, we return that carbon back into the world. Good sense is held to ransom for fear that we'll lose the things that we think are fun by the soulless governments and energy tycoons who tell us, when it rains, there is no sun. And without our crude and filthy fuel, the world just wouldn't run. But that's a lie, and now's the time we're looking down the barrel of nature's gun. Every day that we live a lie, that lie becomes the truth. Unlike the plankton and those mega trees, for us, there's no excuse. We can't live in poison. Coal and oil is the proof. We take so make every little step you take count, like putting solar panels on the roof. Now is the time to demand and stand, and if we have to, fight, and understand that in the end we either die or we unite to make it right. The air we breathe has no borders, and the sun is infinite. We need to change or the climate will, and we can kiss ourselves goodnight. So if you hear this tale, when I'm no longer here, and my children's children can all breathe clean fresh air, maybe we will have realised that it's the one thing we all share, and that the world, this globe we live upon, is extraordinary and rare.
Gas has just hit $1.50 a litre.
According to a study which was published last month in Nature Sustainability, the amount of greenleaf area on the Earth has increased by about 5% in the past 2 decades. This translates to 5.5 million square kilometres, which is equivalent to the size of the Amazon rainforest. That most of that has been in China and India. So, and the reason is because there's more CO2. Plants grow more green leaf area. They can increase their biomass by about 30%. So that's what happens. More CO2, the plants grow more and they're more greener. So we've actually increased the Amazon.
And gas is $1.50 a litre yesterday. That's going to affect everything and everybody.
Yeah. So moving right along, I'll do one before. I'm going to invite Rob up next. I'll do one before he comes on up here. Where's my living life brings amazing things. Loving, cleaning, washing, meeting, greeting, cooking, making, baking, talking, walking, sitting, eating, drinking, shitting, pissing, thinking, smiling, dancing, singing, and writing. Wow. Everyone's smiling. Yeah. Rob, come on up. You need a chair there?
Yeah.
No. Oh, okay. I love watching other people. Oh, yeah. Wow, what's his name?
Frank.
No, not Frank. The other guy. Johnny Locke. Sex Pistols. My Way. Their version of My Way. I love it.
Sid Vicious, actually.
Sid Vicious, yeah, that's
Sid
it.
Solo.
That was before he had danced. Go to heaven.
So I find
What was that, Nancy? Sponge.
final kid.
On Nancy.
She's going to become That's pretty true.
I just had a brain block. I couldn't think of the Sex Pistols. Wait, it's a tragic death.
That's that story of me and my Anna.
Yeah, the tale of the
So did Sid kill Nancy and then kill himself? Nancy? Sponging?
Go to YouTube and watch people.
I'm not quite sure. It went out and burned. It burns right.
Now we have to find out.
And then you got to Google it for us.
Simpsons.
I have a feeling he did something.
Hey.
It was true blue.
Sponging.
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah.
You know, the slightest intonation is like climbing Mount Everest.
I'm going to do 3 songs that me and a fellow tomato worker wrote inside the glass house.
What a strange name. Tomato worker.
His name's Roshan Sharma. He's a Nepali man, Nepali tomato worker, and me wrote these. Okay. The first one, he sort of came up with the main concepts, and I sort of did the music and did a bit of the lyrics as well. This one's called "Heaven Is a Place."
When
blindly climb all the way to heaven. When a little baby cries, 1,000 voices croon on high, swooning by and by and by, all the way from heaven. When a little baby dies, 1,000 angels sympathize, and lift them as they blindly climb all the way to heaven. Heaven is a place for the angels and the devils. Heaven is a place for the beautiful souls, the beautiful creatures of the earth. They are in heaven. So I request you do it till you have a place in heaven.
You want to have a look at this? You got to have a look at this. Someone gave it to me the other day. That's beautiful, that song.
I see.
No,
Angels.
It's really, really beautiful.
Sounds beautiful, Rob.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, excellent.
Okay, here's another one from me and Roshan Sharma, Kathmandu's finest.
Wow.
This is a
Amazing. Thank you.
there's a very strong tradition of love songs in Nepal, probably for thousands of years, and so we'll do a couple. We wrote a few. Like here's a couple of love songs. Australian Nepali fusion.
Have you been there?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. That's
I will soar like a bird down the mountains to meet you. The flower you kissed, or your shell like my dear. Oh, for blood red rubies to drape about your neck. Deep sea pearls illuminate. I will water this wreck. Stars of the heavens are not mine to bestow, nor can I bequeath the paintings of Van Gogh. Silks of the east are much too far out of my game. Mongolian horses are too wild for me to tame. I can give you a child, a baby's soft, quivering breath. I can give you my love, my heart, my life, and my death. To me, you're as lovely as a soft morning rain, and tears in the memory will always remain. No swimming's will accept my soul for you, dear. I'll never afford a Merc, Audi, or Range Rover, I fear. I'll waltz you on my back, be my Matilda so grand. If tears should fall down from your eyes, on the roses where they land, I will soar like a bird down the mountains to meet you. With a flower you kissed, or your shell like my dear. Oh, for blood red Okay, there's another one, we wrote it, in the tomato farm.
In the glass house.
Yeah, in the glass house last couple of years. His wife works there, Roshan's wife, Aruna. She works there too, and so this one goes out to Aruna. Namaste, Aruna. This one's for you. It's called Just Take My Hand and We Conquer. Sometimes when you're sleeping next to me, I don't know who you are. Am I a friend or am I foe? I would really like to know. Are restless dreams inside your head? Was it something that I said? And I see a little smile upon your weary dot. Don't fool me, don't push me now. Just take my hand and we'll conquer. I'll wait for you, you take your time. I will be weak, you'll be stronger. Don't pull me up, don't push me down. Just take my hand and we'll conquer. I'll wait for you, you take your time. I will be weak, you'll be stronger. Just take my hand and we conquer. I'll wait for you, you take your time. I will be weak, you'll be stronger. Don't pull me up, don't push me down. Just take my hand and we conquer. I'll wait for you, you take your time. I will be weak, you'll be stronger. Thanks, Rob.
Nailed it.
I'm not standing behind the chair because I'm trying to hide my short shorts. and I got sunburnt knees on Sunday, so yeah, as you can see, they've gone white. So anyway, shameless plug for the Big Hairy Bush Dance Band who are coming here to the Australian.
The Big Hairy Bush Dance Band.
Oh, depends where you put the paws, eh? The Big Hairy Bush Dance Band. We're having a bush dance on the Friday, the 14th of January, for the Lament Potato Festival. Tickets are adults $15, children $10, and a family of 4 or more $40. So you can get tickets online at Eventbrite or Eventbrite.
It'd be really good
They're really, really good. I hear they've got a great bush
Largophonis.
Largophonis, yeah. Yeah. Saul Caferella over there. So, yeah.
And Saul's me at the microphone.
So, yeah, and with that, I'm going to invite Paul up.
Okay, thank you, James. Yes, there's Saul, Mark, Susan, Bob, Ashley, Ali. I just want to sing a song from the south where my heart is. This is a song by Hank Williams. Hank had a tragic and short life. He was known as a drunkard or an alcoholic, as you'd say today, but he was a binge drinker. A sad man, a great man, wrote a lot of good songs. He had a very big heart. He wrote a song about his dad, which is a heartfelt song, I think. And in my crummy style, I'll give you a rendition. This song is called Log Train. If you will listen, a song I will sing about my daddy who ran a log train way down in the Southland in old Alabama. We lived in a place they called Cheltenham Town. Late in the evening when the sun was low, way out in the distance you would hear the train blow. Folks would come running and Mama would sing, get the supper on the table, here comes the log train. Every morning at the break of day, he'd get on his bucket and on his way. Winter or summer, sunshine or rain, every morning he'd run the old log train, sweating and cursing all day long, singing, get up there oxen, keep moving along. Load her up boys, 'cause it seems like rain, I gotta keep moving this old log train. This story happened a long time ago. The log train is silent, God called that to go. But when I get to heaven to always remain, I'll listen for the whistle of the old log train.
Thank you, Paul. Stand over on the Curragh Railway line and sing that.
Thank you.
All right.
James Paul. That's not James Paul. Hank Williams. Best love song in the world ever.
So
Is that one?
Hank Williams, best love song in the world.
So before I invite Ali Cairns to do hers, I've had the pleasure of being introduced to the writings of Jacques Derrida, a Algerian Jewish Algerian born French philosopher. Yeah, I know.
Who was also Arabian.
Who was and is incredibly controversial.
Very, very controversial.
Very
But so I'll read my
thoughts on.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I've got something else I'm going to do later about dystopian films. And a lot of dystopian films feature zombies. And like zombie kind of apocalypse. And now one of the things about zombies is they're undecidable. They're not alive or nor dead. They're sort of dead but alive but without a soul, something like that. So I'll read you the prelude.
I'm a zombie.
The philosopher Derrida wrote extensively about language and how each individual makes a different meaning from the same words. The human condition is such that each one always looks for confirmation of their own opinions and beliefs. That's called confirmation bias. That is what many people are doing, is looking for confirmations of their beliefs. However, each belief, every belief, and I say belief, contains elements of doubt. which is why they're beliefs as opposed to facts. Facts rely on data. Opinions, belief, and faith are all based on hearsay, and while they might have some shreds of evidence showing that they're correct, they're mostly based on analogy and programming by our society, culture, languages, and experiences. The undecidable. Alive, but dead. Dead, but alive. Zombies glued to narratives, poisoning the comfortable ideas that the world is inhabited by, governed by, definitive categories, decidables. In a culture that separates the living and dead, dead poets' words echoed down through the eons. Sign-wolf poetry sung 1200 years later, living the illusions of tell-lie visions, channelled at 60 hertz, programmed not to take difficult decisions. South Park or Sesame Street, sunny day, everything's A-OK. Find my way, where I'm heading down to South Park, gonna have myself a time. Friendly zombies everywhere. Sucking in the smoke of a dried and cured tobacco leaf. Spray on the toxic deodorant. Perfume of the dregs in beer bottles. Undecidables. Some walking in circles, some sit in circles. Slinkies always find rest in tightly coiled spirals. Like the dog who ran in ever-decreasing circles disappeared up its own arse. Binary polarity and relativity, true, false, high, low, on, off, up, down, male, female, no gender, non-binary, undecidables. Zombies. Cinematic inscriptions of the failure of the black and white. Opposition. Shades of grey. Shades of blue. Oppressed and depressed, light another cigarette. Alive, but dead. Watching fear porn sent via messengers. Bing! Desexualised zombies. No power of decision. Just. Barely here nor there, only just. Poisoned systems of order, confusion reigns, resting in pieces, an ear open to the music, an eye on the screen, a conversation about nothing really important, nor will conversations solve the problems of the world without decisions, without goals, without actions, the undecidables. I was once told that I would never make any decisions. That was 18 years ago. So I went to live in China. Took my wife and sons. Taught English. Became a poet. Ultimately, best decision that I ever made. A decidedly good decision. Better than having sex with the metaphorical dog. In China, maybe tomorrow means that it's not going to happen. Today, maybe tomorrow from yesterday's perspective, but yesterday is gone and tomorrow never truly arrives. Decision, action, solution, finished. Almost I have decided that I'm going to live an extremely long and well life. I don't want to be one of the walking dead zombies, the undecidables.
Kill the zombies! Kill the zombies!
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, and that. Yeah, that was a very interesting. And a little quick one before I go. A fish named Felix jumped out of a pond, but got back into the pond before it was dead. And this is what the fish in the pond, who was extremely lucky not to be dead, said. I am an extremely lucky fish named Felix, and when I jumped out of the pond I was in, I was thinking, this isn't one of my brightest tricks, so I'd better get back to the pond I was in.
Helix, the helix.
The double helix, and that I'll invite Ali Cairns to present.
We'll have to go around We'll have to go around Guyra one night performing things related to street corners. And beam it out for those who want to have a magical trip through Guyra.
You know what I like about corners? They're one of those ones that you can use all three prepositions with. You can be in the corner, on the corner, or at the corner.
Only you.
I like with.
I wrote this in about 10 minutes or so, so it's a bit rough.
Wow.
Okay.
And if I get the rhythm out, well, do that.
You're in trouble.
If God offered life on earth a way, then can it be from today? Can it be a magical method we name Rest Forever method? Human offers back to other life forms into an eternal future where koala sits in a tree you planted in a payback method we know is a better way to offer back to land, needing nature to offer restoration, regeneration method of a principle she knows so much better than a thinking, stinking human could ever come up with thinking. If a thinking, stinking human could ever cease at thinking, then a way will be seen when, from that day that human ceases thinking and offers back to land, earth, waterways, a life ahead that is a wonderful future where all are cared for by a human feeling love for life they never knew they had within them until that day they gave up stinking thinking and brought the soul experience into a physical 3D existence of experience, a day in a felt meaning heartfelt way that human times a billion will be able to offer earth the soul feel method any experience in 3D offers all life on earth needing extra special loving care from a now feeling soul experiencing form-filled phenomena in a name of human.
Wow.
Crossing New York on Brooklyn Ferry. Mr. Whitman did.
This was inspired by Indiana Jones and The Curse of the Mummies.
You're obsessed with zombies.
I am tonight. Yeah, it's called The Chicken Thief.
Is it a full moon?
Close.
Oh, look at his eyebrows.
The Chicken Thieves. Empires rise, empires fall. Revolutions come and go. Governments rise and governments fall. Emperors rise and emperors fall. Presidents rise and presidents fall. But all of them take your potatoes. Yes? They all take your chickens. Yes? They all take your corn. Yes, the only thing to change is the name of the man taking the potatoes, chicken and corn. Yeah, decidedly.
Channeling Bertolt Brecht.
Yeah, I'm decidedly anarcho-capitalist tonight. Doug,
Yeah?
welcome.
Okay.
I don't even know
I've been
your.
rehearsing
I don't even know
my
your surname, Doug.
Sorry, mate?
I don't even know your second
He's
name.
got two first names.
Szymanowski.
Don't worry about my second name, mate. It's well enough for most people.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of a comment that I swallowed up a few years ago, and it said something about, you may be too much for some people. And if you're too much for those people, maybe they're not your fucking people. Can I swear? I love being amongst my people. I feel a little bit home here. Thanks tonight, it's been very powerful night, and thanks to everyone. Wow, it's touched me so many ways. Someone said to me this hour, I was out talking to someone, and I got to poetry, and they said, have you got a captive audience up there? I've been thinking about that. Shit, yeah. You can't get away. Well, you could. Anyway, I don't want to capture in a self-centered manner, but I can.
Doug, there may be somebody in Antarctica right now watching you.
Well, I don't want to capture you. Anyway, I want to say a couple of things. It's so interesting. When I was living in the States, in Montana, I used to go shopping with my poetry wife. And we get into Costco, fill the car up with crap for the hotel. And we had to go through the door, and a guy called Charles was there, and he'd check your shopping and make sure you were legal. And Charles's mum come to Australia once and hugged a wombat. So if he's still alive, I'll call him at Christmas and tell him I know a little bit more about wombats and what they do.
Have you got me Yahtzee?
Well, I don't want to be clever, but I'll tell you. And thanks, something else I wanted to mention about tonight. And I've been really touched. So Kevin Gilbert, when I lived down Taree Way, he had a house, I think, right on the highway, just south of Taree. I think he was getting on a little. He'd written a book, I think, called Living Black, which I read. And I remember talking to him a couple of times and thanking him. And I just bear with me, I come out of Sydney as a kid in the 50s and 60s, and we had, they called it the White Australia policy. If you see anything different colour of white, you're not supposed to be there. And I remember meeting Kevin and some other Aboriginal people when we went up the bush, and what an education for this White Australia guy that never even seen an Aboriginal. What a legend to meet Kevin. I know the strength in his face. I remember talking to him and think, you've been around a little bit, mate. Thanks very much for what you're doing. Anyway, so Lumi. So I've got this bit of a poem. I'll finish on this. Talking about everything you've all been saying, I want to give you a bit of this New Human. I've showed the book to James and Ellie, I think, and a few. This book, I'll say one thing. It's about indigo kids. It's about the exponential rise of kids with autism, ADHD, all that other stuff which they're putting them on pills for. And they're saying in here, these kids are sent to help us. And they're telling me that DNA, what a frightening term, is that a scientific term, DNA? They say that 98% of our DNA, whatever that means, the scientists know bugger all what it's there for. They say it's probably a waste material. And some of these kids are getting influenced by maybe ETs or energies from other dimensions, which are giving these kids the strength to help us. We just want to change, we just want to fix them. They don't need fixing. Anyway, I'll leave that there. Oh, sorry. It's very powerful to hear about the indigo kids and maybe the potential they have to help us. How they don't need to be fixed by us. Anyway, here's a little piece, and James, I kind of couldn't, well, I had to do this in a way because it's coming out of Saturday when the choirs were here. It's a bit of a tribute, I think. I don't know if it'll work, so I'm having a go. school choirs. The first word is harmony too, and harmonies is a very powerful word for me in today's world. Anyway, and I also want to say one thing too. I heard music can enhance your DNA. I'm back on the DNA, they don't know what it is, but they say human. Music can enhance the human DNA. You can build it, lift it. You want to kick in the bum, get some music in here. Beautiful, mate, tonight. It's enhancing my DNA. Is that what you did to me years ago, Mr. Dillon? Anyway, harmonies, here we go. Harmonies waft from out in their distances. Waft to the magical tones that can heal. Those whispered notes that can tug at my heart, or the nightingale's breath that can change DNA. For a mist-laden bagpipe pulling warmth up inside me, for a string's minor chord that frees tears out of eyes. Such choral togetherness, soprano and basses, form skylights and valleys and echoes in soul. Thank you, sweet Gyra, for bringing us to you. The great Hall of Fame was stirred to its roots. We all, so what? We all so agreed this was just what we needed. Choirs of such purpose will stay with me deeply. Divine is a word which rings loud to me. Well, the fuck is something about that? Very good. Really, mate. Seeds have been sown for gifts down the line. My heart smiles eager for cholesterol. Is that a word? No, not cholesterol. How do you say cholesterol? It's about a choir. What's it called? Cholesterol? Cholesterol. I made that word up. I'll say it again. Seeds have been sown for gifts down the line. My heart smiles eager for cholesterol bliss.
Wow.
I'm just going to... Well done. Thank you very much, Doug. And Fiore Musicali, who were here on Saturday afternoon, you can see a replay of their performance on the YouTube channel of the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame and also on the Facebook page of this place. Now this one comes with a picture, and I'll show the viewers out there, of a man. Now he's reaching for the bread instead of reaching for the key. Now, representing the prisons that we create from our own mind. It's called Reaching for the Bread Instead of the Key. The left wing is a victim, a cripple like an overbearing, overprotective mother, building a child-proof wall to enable victim mentality, disempowering and producing jealous, sooky, whining babies who can't do anything for themselves. The right wing is like an overbearing father who rules by fear and intimidation, coming home from the pub pissed, yelling and violent, beating all into submission and creating angry, spiteful, vengeful children with no compassion for themselves or others. Both rule through fear. Cut off your wings and leap off the cliff into the sea below. Walk your own walk, talk your own talk, and let go of the outdated ideas that you need maternalistic rulers and governments that are paternalistic, because this is the time and now is the hour to take back your individual sovereign power and never bowed down to governing through derision. Be free to walk with valiant courage and make your own decisions. Never let anyone else make your choices. Open your eyes, heart, mind, and find singing voices, or you'll always feel beaten down, walled in and poor. Walk the walk, talk the talk, and open your own door. The only prison is your mind. I was really inspired by Viktor Frankl, who was a Jewish intern in the prison gulags of Nazi Germany, and wrote particularly on that kind of stuff. The only prison is really, might be around you, but you can still keep your sanity regardless of what's around you.
That's such meaning.
And the last one, so I've got two more, and I've got one more and a little light one to finish with. And this one is inspired by all the dystopia movies, like Soylent Green, a couple of Charlton Heston movies I've been watched lately. I'm not a big movie watcher, but Soylent Green and the Omega Man from 1971 and 73 with Charlton Heston. But if you've ever watched any of these, you'll probably recognise there's probably around about 20 or 30 that I mentioned through this piece of poetry. Prelude. The following is brought to you by Hollywood and its predictive programming with dystopian films. Charlton Heston and Arnold Schwarzenegger watching films, munching on a plate of Soylent Green. Is this a death race or dark metropolis? COVID 1984. Dystopia. Exposed. Corporation by pharmacopoeia. Mass media misinformation masks indoctrination. Cacotopia. Searching for the legendary cosmic weapon named Grid, aka Matrix. While looking for 12 monkeys, a convict is sent back in time to gather information about the mysterious virus that began Planet of the Apes, with humans enslaved by the dominant species, apes. Where a big V for Vendetta sets the temperature at Fahrenheit 451, the temperature at which books are burnt. While Max, who is mad in a self-destructing world, a vengeful policeman sets out to stop a violent motorcycle gang testing PCR at 40 cycles plus. Is this the Truman Show or just Idiocracy? Pure Bloods, The Running Man, or The Omega Man? 28 days later, Dawn of the Dead, and 28 weeks later, the army secures a small area of London for the survivors to repopulate and start again, as the Hunger Games are vying for the extinction of Resident Evil. While I Am Legend rides the spaceship Nebuchadnezzar into Zion so the Matrix can be reloaded and rebooted, as Atlas shrugged once and then twice. What a bothersome man. Daybreakers. In the year 2019, a plague has transformed almost every human into vampires. Meanwhile, a researcher works with a covert band on a way to save humankind.
Yeah.
And Yeah, and last of all for the evening, if I could write a rhyme, it would be sublime. Then I'd have time to drink water and lime while acting out a mime about word crime and washing off the grime. Would you give me a dime so let the bells chime for the pantomime? Okay, and that's it. That's the time. Thank you, everyone. You can catch up on the Poetry Hall of Fame, Australian Poetry Hall of Fame in Gyra's Facebook page or on YouTube in about 3 hours. Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you very much. Once again. And on that, with my introduction, I did not acknowledge that sovereignty has never been ceded by the Indigenous people, First Nations people of Australia. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, no.